Hello and thanks for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. Today on the program, Supreme Court dismisses appeal of Atiku PDP against victory of President Buhari. Federal government tells ASUU no going back on the October deadline for IPPIS implementation. INEC partners ICPC ESCC to monitor Kogi Bayelsa governorship election for vote buying. And later on the show, I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Emeka Madunagu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. It is the end of the road for the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar, regarding the 2019 presidential election. The Supreme Court, the final stage for resolution of such electoral disputes in Nigeria, has dismissed Atiku's appeal challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari in the election. The reasons are to be communicated to parties in the case later, but that decision, the IPPIS court upheld the verdicts of the Court of Appeal, which had on the 11th of September dismissed Atiku's petition. Babajide, we saw this coming when the Court of Appeal did what some people would describe as a kind of clinical job, a 9-hour judgment, and one by one, the submission was taken to task, the relief that was sorted, everything one by one, and it was so comprehensive. I couldn't even afford to listen to the 9-hour judgments. But from the key points that we got from that judgment, it was obvious that, look, that it will be a very, very difficult task for Atiku's lawyer, for the PDP and Atiku himself to convince the apex courts that otherwise.
Yes, given the way the judgment of the Court of Appeal was handed down, the thoroughness with which the case was dispatched, definitely it will be an uphill task for the lawyers of Atiku at the Supreme Court. And we actually said that, I think, 2 days later, when the PDP notified the Supreme Court that it was going to appeal. Remember all the 5 arguments that the PDP came up with, that the PDP and Atiku came up with, were dismissed, ruled against the petitioner. So definitely, because the Supreme Court doesn't really have that time. A trial court has ample time to look at a case thoroughly, to listen to witnesses and all that. But what the Supreme Court does is simply to review what had happened at the lower tribunals or the lower courts, as the case may be. So they really do not spend so much time on a matter. And once a matter had been clinically dispensed with, if you want to use your word now, clinically dispensed with at the lower tribunal, as we saw in respect of, as the Justice Garba Mohammed-led panel did, then you can predict that it will be impossible for that kind of judgment to be overturned. Atiku's case failed largely because both the PDP and their candidates found it difficult to present witnesses to prove infractions that they claimed happened in the course of the election. For example, in the Kina local government of Kogi State, Atiku's lawyers argued that their agents were either arrested or harassed or were not allowed to take part in the election. In fact, they affirmed that actual election didn't take place in the Kina local government. But they didn't bring any witness, any of those agents
That
were harassed or were beaten up, were stopped from doing their duties on election day. But they didn't bring any of them to court to come and actually prove the case that this was actually what happened. And then in the case, the court ruled that, look, where you accuse the armed forces, for example, of conniving with the ruling party to rig election, that assumes a criminal dimension. And because of that, you must sufficiently prove that those criminal infractions took place. But what did we see? Across the country, they were unable to provide enough witnesses to actually prove their case in each of the respective polling units where they claimed that infractions took place. So the number of witnesses that they came up with, clearly the judges said, were not enough if we are talking about election across the country. And even the star witness, Osita Chidoka, did not witness any of the elections. He was in the situation room of the PDP monitoring what was going on election day. So his testimony was kind of seen as hearsay because he didn't participate in the election and he didn't witness those infractions that he came to court to talk about. So it was a very straightforward judgment at the time. One is not saying that the election went, that the election was perfect. No. We've not reached that point in Nigeria where we can conduct elections that you can vouch for their fidelity. But the truth is, in the face of the law, in the eyes of the law, Atiku and his minders were unable to prove that those infractions that they talked about so much in the days leading to the filing of their petition actually took place.
Emeka, looking at what we have now, this is the final bus stop for the presidential election petition, that's the Supreme Court, and reviewing everything that happened, would you say you are satisfied with the role of the judiciary as arbiter of justice, the final bus stop that you can get justice?
Well, it is commonly assumed that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But again, certain developments in Nigeria over the years have not really given vent to that hope. That the judiciary is the last hope of the common man based on certain kinds of judgments that have arisen over time. So there's a need for the judiciary to really also look inwards. Take a look at this. We have discussed it here on this table. Judiciary needs to look at certain things. I do know that past Chief Justices of Nigeria had court to raise, to take issue with certain kinds of judgments. Was it Justice Kutigi who talked about how judges were just dispensing ex parte orders as if it was just so easy for anybody to procure, and I think he warned them then. Then we come to the case, on the table, which is the conclusion of the appeal of Atiku. We cannot totally put the blame on the judiciary because the political class has to play its role. The National Assembly has to play its role. And a situation, for instance, a situation where the Constitution gives leeway to politicians to get away with certain things. Like one of the points of appeal for Atiku at the Supreme Court was about the president's credentials, that he didn't attach the credentials. And the president's lawyer, Olani Kwekun, SAN, said that the Constitution didn't place a burden on the president to attach his credentials. Now, what does that say about us as a nation? What does that say about the credibility of our democracy? That is one area that the National Assembly must look at, because you can't just say, okay, because the law says I can run away with this chair. This law does not require that I get up from this chair and go away. So I can do what I like. I can get up with this chair and run away. we must sanitize our electoral process. And that was one of the things that people raised the issue with the president, that he refused to sign the amended Electoral Act. And there are certain things in that amended Electoral Act that we will need for the stability and the progress of our democracy. Otherwise, we'll just end up telling the world that our democracy is a joke. We must institute the rule of law. People must believe in the electoral process. People must be able to come to cast their ballots in such a manner that they are confident that this is the best thing they could be doing at that particular time, and not something else. We must insist on the fidelity of our electoral process.
Okay, Jide, if you are to look at, we monitored that election, we covered that election, we are active participants in that election. Sometimes when I'm just coming from the field, I will see Jide running analysis to the middle of the night and everything. And when you see the flaws of that election, and you see the reality on ground, that the flaws that marred the election across the 36 states overall, and you now see what the Supreme Court is saying. It is the court is not a Father Christmas. It is what you send to the courts that the court will do. Moving forward, how can we rectify our electoral system? You saw the flaws in the 2019 election from the beginning to the end.
No, there's no doubt about it. You know, these are two different things. There could be flaws all over the place, but the law is the law. The truth is,
If you are not able to prove it,
if you are not able to prove it, then it becomes a big problem. And now, if you can prove that, look, there was inflation of votes in a particular area, then you must produce the voter register in respect of that area. In this case, the appeals tribunal affirmed that in places where they complain of overvoting, they didn't produce the voter register, because that is the only way you can prove that indeed it happened. You know, because the voter register will show the number of people registered to vote there, and then you can attach the number of accredited voters on the day. But you can't make those allegations without
just
coming to prove. I've always said it that I find it difficult to live with the fact that we rig elections in our country. It pains me as a person, because I think it diminishes us. But
Olufemi is calling us from Abuja now. Olukemi is calling us from Abuja.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Okay, go ahead with your contribution, please.
I want to contribute concerning the educational qualification. We
Okay.
are doing a great mistake in Nigeria. How can you tell me somebody is retired as a general? You are telling me his educational qualification is not all right. That is wrong. Please let us not use educational qualification as an excuse. Atiku cannot win buries if they do the election 10 times. Let's stop using the educational qualification. The appeal to the Supreme Court is dead on arrival. My brother in the middle said something which I love. From the beginning, the appeal court dealt with the issue thoroughly. That even an illiterate who is not a lawyer, we know that there is no need for appeal. But because they want to spend this money, we thank God for his money. He has spent it. Let him just go to Dubai and rest and leave us alone in Nigeria. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Femi.
Femi
is saying because they want to spend this money.
I don't think
thanking God for
It's a
it.
Nigerian. It's a Nigerian. You cannot say you should leave us
I
alone.
don't think we should
No,
be
it's a Nigeria.
simplistic about fundamental issues that have to do with our country. You see, we cannot just take it, there was no need for appeal because he's a general.
He has just exercised his rights.
Yes, but nobody,
His legitimate
but I'm
rights.
responding, nobody is doubting, because that's also one of the things that people have been bringing. Nobody is doubting the fact that Buhari is a general, he was head of state. Nobody has issue with that. The fact of the matter is this. I have said that provision that you don't have to attach your credentials from CF 0001 needs to be reviewed. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked into. We have said the same thing here, that the law is the law. So what it is that we cannot just blame the judiciary. We must also look at the National Assembly. What is it doing about making sure that the electoral process is
It's sanitized.
believable. Yes.
Did they finally on this?
Yeah, I want to see us adopt electronic voting because it's only technology that
can take
help
us
Yes,
from that
it
very
can take
slow
us there.
system.
We see countries, and I've talked about South Africa, where in the municipal elections it was clear that ANC was losing, but they refused to rig the election. In Nelson Mandela Bay, where a lot of the anti-apartheid heroes were born, where they made their name, ANC lost the election. But they didn't have to rig. They didn't rig. But we are so irresponsible that we just rig at every opportunity. And it diminishes us. As a people, it diminishes us. Look at what INEC was saying the other day about Kogi and Bayelsa. That look, if you go to snatch ballot boxes, we will adopt zero voting in those areas. And the police boss will say, look, in Kogi, that they are already raising private armies. In other parts of the world, do they raise private armies for election? That's police saying this. It's not me saying it. So how can I be happy that that is happening? So our electoral process must be sanitized, because that is the only way we can change leaders who refuse to work for us, who refuse to serve the people. The electoral system must be such that at every 4 years, leaders who chose to be irresponsible, who chose to not work for the people but work for their pockets, we can remove them. We have to get there. We have to get there. And by God's grace, we will get there.
All right.
We have to.
Okay, moving on now. It appears that the battle line has been drawn between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, over the vexed issue of the implementation of the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System, IPPIS, while ASUU has engaged in fierce battle with the government over its decision to put universities in the IPPIS. The presidency has insisted that there will be no going back on the 31st of October deadline. ASUU based its resistance to the policy on claims that it negates the law of university autonomy, but the government said it will save costs and tackle corruption by blocking leakages. Emeka, can you please enlighten us what this IPPIS is about?
Yeah, of course, it's a department under the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, and it was introduced by a past government. I think it was the government of
2017.
2007, yes. That was the government of, yes, yeah, I think Obasanjo.
Okay.
Then, yes, that introduced that policy as a way of weeding off ghost workers and centralizing the payroll system of the federal government so that it will be easy to track salaries, allowances, and then taxes deductible from the salaries of people on the payroll of the federal government. But you see, like the Senate President noted at his meeting on Monday with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, that he wonders why governments would agree, why government officials would reach agreement with unions that have some clauses that are not implementable. You are on the one hand pushing IPPIS, and on the other hand, you are instituting autonomy, making it in such a way that each university, each federal institution is autonomous. Each federal university, each federal polytechnic, each federal college of education is autonomous. It's standing on its own with the governing council. And then now this has brought up certain issues. And then ASUU is also talking about the fact that this is another attempt to take with the left hand what has been given the right hand, the issue of retirement age of professors at 70. Now that you are now trying to take it away with the left hand at 60, and then put them at par with, MDAs, and that the situation in the tertiary education sector is not like what you find in the rest of the federal civil service. So for me, I think government ought to handle this matter with care, because we cannot afford a fresh disruption in our tertiary education system. I've read people say, oh, the government should call ASUU's bluff and all of that. And I asked them a question. Should we continue to run our country in such an adversarial manner, is it difficult to sit down with ASUU and iron out the gray areas?
Well,
we need to
Jude,
deal with this thing.
What I'm looking at in this IPPS, when I read the mandates and the responsibility, apart from one or two gray areas, I don't think it's something that ASUU should say, no, we are not going to be part of, expressly like that. When I read their mandate and everything, I don't know what your impression is about this. Is this enough for ASUU to say, no, we don't want to be part of this?
No, I absolutely do not see the need for all of this noise. You see, ASUU shouldn't always think that all matters must be resolved through tears and blood. You can't always be adversarial once an initiative that is new is suggested to you. In this case, you look at this IPPIS that they are talking about at the University Teaching Hospital in Ife. It's been implemented for a long time and nobody has died, in inverted commas. The truth is, every time a Nigerian or we Nigerians violently resist an initiative, you need to investigate.
Something.
There's always a reason behind it. Today, there are lecturers who are working in up to 3 or 4 universities.
Oh.
Yes. How did it happen? The moment licenses were issued for the release, for the setting up of private universities, you now have this idea of adjunct or visiting professors and all that, which allows adjunct is allowed.
It's allowed, yes.
But the truth is, how can you, on the basis of adjunct, be working in 3 different universities, and on the basis of visiting lecturer or visiting professor, be working in 5 others? The way it works for some of these lecturers is that states like Osun or Ogun, where there are many universities, it's so easy for them. How do you defend a situation in which your postal address reads Ibadan, but you are lecturing at Elizade University, lecturing at this, lecturing at that? By the time you come to lecture in the university in where you are employed originally, you are already tired. You'll be shouting at your students. These are the things happening, and automation will ultimately expose the fact that some people are actually working for up to 8 universities. How do you defend that? How would you be able to give substantial service to your original university? So this is the thing. When ASUU begins to fight in this way, they know what they are talking about. We know those who took TED fund money to go for research abroad and refuse to come back. Go to a university like this one in Ogbomoso.
Lautech.
Go and investigate how many of the lecturers refuse to come back to Nigeria, having taken money from TED fund to go for research. They just stayed there. So there are excesses in the system. No one can convince me, and there's no VC who can say that within his university there are no ghost workers. And ghost workers is what IPPIS will address. Yes, there could be some exceptions. Because I know that in the university system, they like to bring in foreign
visiting lecturers.
Yes, even from outside of Nigeria, although it's not like it used to be. You know why. But the truth is, you don't just simply dismiss an initiative. You need to see that even in the ministry already acknowledged that there are some exceptions that could be made. But to totally dismiss it, I do not see. You as an employee of TVC, for example, you want to decide how your salary gets paid, or the bank that pays your salary. It's not done. Because whether we talk about autonomy or not, these guys do not generate even the funds with which they pay their salary. So there's no autonomy in the real sense of the word. You do not fund the universities with the monies that you generate. It is still the federal government that pays your salaries. So which autonomy are we even talking about? I am for, look, let us look at how we can save money, block leakages, and I believe that this system will help us to address it. There are ghost workers in the university system. We can banish them through the implementation of this. And other areas through which the resources are leaking, we can block. But if there are exceptions that can be made, they need to sit down. But to simply dismiss it and be threatening strike. In any case, some of these private universities are not even supposed. Look at when the issue of contributory pension. That was how ASUU fought. Say no, we don't want contributory pension. But today, I can tell you, many lecturers have refused to move their money to, because they eventually created their own PENCOM for them. Many lecturers have refused to move their money to NOPEMCO because they've seen that it is actually desirable to have that idea. And so this is the way I also see this. I don't think that anybody plans to peg the retirement age of academics at 60. It's just ASUU trying to blackmail people on this matter. I don't think, ASUU has also said, oh, this thing is riddled with corruption. You have to prove it. Because these are the reasons that they are giving.
All right, I'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. Please, it's still Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. Yes, if you are just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout, and we are looking at the controversy between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian University. Emeka, ASUU is saying that the IPPIS thing violates the existing laws and university autonomy, that it's a World Bank designated exploitative template, that IPPIS does not make provisions for payment of arrears of promotion, study leave allowance, responsibility allowance, and among others. It's also saying that it is designed to phase out the university lecturer that are above 60 years against the new policy where professors retire at the age of 70, that IPPIS is one-size-fits-all approach tinted with corrupt tendencies. That's what ASUU is saying.
That's ASUU's position, which I think should be looked into. I mean, the government should actually find a meeting point with ASUU, because you know what the pains the university system had to go through because of regular ASUU strikes. And so you reached an agreement. Even President Buhari actually released money. Remember, he released money to settle some of the obligations under the federal government ASUU agreement. So we cannot now be trying to torpedo all the hard work, all the work that has gone into building those, into preparing that agreement. But again, I think
the agreement is not simply about autonomy.
No,
it's about funding of the universities.
Yeah, there are those areas which also
in fact, funding is the key issue.
Into. And then again, for a lecturer to be able to teach in a number of universities also points out to the fact that there's a dearth of teaching personnel. So what is government doing about that?
In private universities.
In private universities, what is government doing about that? You are giving licenses?
No, so the private universities should find their staff. If you are paid, if your postal address reads Ife, why should you be working in up to 8 universities in the name of adjunct, in the name of visiting lecture? The automated system will show, because you can't even defend that. You see, this is that we are talking about, many people don't know. How do you defend the fact that you work in 8 different places? How do you defend it?
But government needs to now review the visitation
let the
system.
private universities go and find their own lecturers. Let you find their own lecturers.
But that might
it is not the problem of the federal government if they don't have.
Retire from government university at that age of 70 and still end up in private universities as lecturers.
Of course. Even VC.
Take them.
Even VC. That will affect accreditation too, because they need some of these experienced lecturers, to help them build their faculties,
When if they were not ready, why did they start?
So, Jide, will it be right to say this ASUU is ASUU want to resist change for development that the federal government is trying to put in place?
The truth is, look, this is not, when you look at the merits of this IPPIS, the billions we have saved from ghost workers, you know, the monies that will have gone to ghost workers, the areas through which the resources are leaking that we are able to block with this IPPIS, then I will support it wholeheartedly. You can support it and still give one or two exceptions. This is what ASUU should be talking about. You don't simply, yes, say, look, yes, we are not against this, but we have, that's why I gave the example of IFE, the teaching university, I mean the teaching hospital. After all, that is part of the university system, and they've been using it. So how are they able to use it? So if you have a system that can banish ghost workers, because there are ghost workers in universities, if you have a system that can banish it, help us to save money that ordinarily would have gone into the pockets of corrupt people, why would you resist it? Why? Because they are now trying to make it look like it's such a bad thing, oh, that is prone to corruption. How is it prone to corruption? That it will not, that it is it does not make allowance for payment of allowances. These are things that can easily be addressed. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this is what we are doing. And ASUU must realize that their monopoly for production of qualified personnel to help us reflate our economy has been broken with the creation of private varsities. So they should stop thinking that, oh, they still have that monopoly. No, with the creation of private universities, that monopoly that public universities are the ones that will produce the people that will help us run our economy and all that, and do all sorts of great stuff in our country. That monopoly has since been destroyed, because some of those private universities are doing well.
Emeka, even the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has hinted that the monopoly of ASUU will soon be broken with another labour center that is about to get registration, because ASUU is like the most potent weapon they have. Before you say Jack Robinson, they call out. They call
their members out on strike.
But it's their lawful right to
a lot of people are saying that
go on strike. If
it's time to start watching.
A strike should be a last resort.
That is getting old.
What from Ngige to say no.
That kind of system.
Strikes can never go out of fashion, because it's a universal.
Even within ASUU, some schools don't even go on strike. Look at University of Ilorin. They don't join them.
Yes, it's been like that.
This is the same thing they tried with NLC. They came up with ULC. But at the end of the day, whatever negotiations you have must get the imprimatur of NLC. So
okay. I think I have this call from Spain.
It's not helpful.
Thank you for joining us. Collins from Spain.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Where are you calling from Spain?
I'm calling from Valencia, Spain.
Valencia in Spain. All right.
Mr. Zubaku, I greet you.
Thank you.
I greet you.
Thank you.
You are doing a wonderful work.
All right.
Actually, I want to contribute in this area. You see, the issue is that what Nigeria needs to correct all these abnormalities is a database system that work, a database that the federal government will be in charge of. You see, there are so many irregularities in our system today because there is no central base that controls all these activities. People do what they like what Ogajide was saying just now, that one lecturer can go to 5, 6, 7 universities. There's a central database that controls this kind of thing. Once a lecturer is asked to come and do any job in any of these universities, what they need to do first is for him to, go into the database and register himself. Like where we live here, if you don't have a resident, they will say you are not part of the system, and you look as if you have not arrived, because as a matter of fact, it is that resident that is a central control system that take care of everything, even to the extent of social amenities distribution, everything, crime, fighting. It is very important to have a database for any institution. Without it cannot work. So what Nigeria actually needs is a database system that work, not all those kind of, even go to the extent of voting, the idea of voting, the irregularities that happen in voting. There's a database, and everybody have his resident number. Then from there, you'll be able to know those that have nationality, those that are visitors and all that. All these things will be taken care of.
Thank you,
Even
Collins.
in fighting crime.
Thank you. I wish you the best of luck all the way from Valencia in Spain. But Collins has just said something that is vital, and we'll continue to talk about it.
Yeah, but even with the national database system, even with that you have such things in developed countries, you still have certain.
It's not as rampant as what we have.
Yeah,
what Collins
we're
is,
developing
what
country.
Collins
We're
is
developing
saying is
country.
talking about essential data.
I understand.
That if you are to
Quite
check
all right.
out from University of Lagos,
Yes.
that I'm on sabbatical for 9 months from University of Lagos, he's going to be on your status
But at the
where
same
you are
time,
going.
but why will you be licensing private universities when is that fact that they don't really have that capacity?
When they don't
To run
have
their
capacity,
programs.
why are they coming out? It simply means that a lot of
And
them
why do you
are
regulate?
just out to make money.
So why? So
No, but some of those courses, some of their courses are not,
Some
some of their courses are not accredited. We know that as a
Yes.
fact. Many of them.
That are running those courses.
Yeah, some of the courses are
accredited.
not accredited. Even for public universities, you still have to go through accreditation for those courses. But the truth is, we can't have a system, so-called adjunct system, whereby you are doing adjunct in 4 places and you are doing a visiting lecturer, visiting professor in 3 places. How do you defend that?
Great.
Any system that will help sanitize the payroll, I'm absolutely for it, because we must cleanse the payroll. Those who should not belong on the payroll, they have to be taken out of the payroll. I can never oppose an idea that is meant to sanitize a payroll system. Any program, any idea that you come up with meant to sanitize the payroll system is something that I will support absolutely. So they can, ASUU cannot always have his way. So in this case, they can come up with their idea, but simply to try to describe it as a IMF or World Bank system meant to destroy our economy and all that. Nobody will buy that, because we all know that this IPPIS has helped us to save many billions. You remember when this government took over, Kemi Adeosun was talking about this thing, that we have been able to save billions and billions of naira from the ghost workers that they've chased out of the system.
Okay,
so this is the thing.
I have Olugbenga from Delta State on the line.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, Benga.
Okay, thank you. I think what Babajide is saying is just the ideal thing. What Oga Emeka is saying, I don't fully understand. That they are private universities and they don't know where to get their lecturers from. That should be their own personal problem. Our own concern is the ASUU does not have any reason whatsoever for not wanting to be on that platform. I have a friend in a university, he's a non-academic staff, and he told me that some of the university lecturers are getting allowances that are illegal.
True.
You have instances where a lecturer in University of Lagos on the same salary scale level with a lecturer in another university is getting more than that person, and it's not as a result of allowances. There's cronyism in the university. This person is my person. As a consequence, you had money to the person's money. At the detriment of another lecturer in another university on the same salary scale level. The difference now is not as a result of allowances. It's just that's how they pad their own salary on their own. So this system is going to expose all such things and make everything transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Olugbenga, for your
I think
contribution.
the fear that many people have is, they are trying to turn universities to government ministries. No. There will still be exceptions. But a payroll management platform, Ayo, is not what anybody should oppose. Because when you look at the merits, you ask yourself, why would you oppose this? We complain that corruption is destroying our country. Yet the people should know are the ones actually winking at corruption, beckoning on corruption to come and destroy us. And corruption works on two legs in our country. The corruption in the university system has to be addressed. It's not at the federal government, the government of Buhari alone that will address corruption, or simply in the states. Everywhere that we suspect that there's corruption, we have to address it as a country.
Let me get your final submission on this.
I think the last caller didn't get me quite right. I said government must look at all the issues holistically. If you're saying that lecturers are exploiting the visitation, and using it to work in different places, you have to address it.
That's why they want to address it.
You have to address it. But again, you also have to look at your agreement, your 2009 agreement with ASUU, and make sure that you iron out all these things. So that if you want to register private universities and they don't have the capacity to teach those courses, why do you go ahead and give them licenses? That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Still to come. INEC partners ICPC, EFCC to monitor Kogi Bayelsa governorship election to check vote buying. We'll be right back after this time out. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's your multi-award winning program, Journalist Hangouts. At the moment, vote buying is probably the biggest obstacle to attaining credible elections in Nigeria. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is worried about this. With the approaching November 16 governorship elections in Bayelsa and Kogi states, INEC is striving to ensure vote buying does not determine the outcome. Chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, says the electoral body is deploying operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to polling centers to arrest vote buyers. But actually, when I saw this story, I was like, this thing has gone even more than what INEC is talking about. INEC they seem not to understand the level, the magnitude that vote buying has attained. Beyond what will happen at the polling units. Some of us that will cover election, we have it on record that even the policemen that will be on each of the polling units,
they are accomplices. So
they are on the payroll of politicians. There's a certain budget for them. Civil defense, policemen, everybody that are going to participate in that election, including electoral officers. So it's something that is from head to toe.
That's it.
So if EFCC, ICPC, first of all, what's the numerical strength of EFCC officials, ICPC, how many
polling centers?
Polling centers? One by one. Let's start from Judicial.
The truth is, parties are becoming smarter and smarter. And vote buying is actually being done these days ahead of election day. Vote buying is done from 7 p.m. of the day before the election. That was why when the election was postponed at the last minute, a friend of mine who was asked to share money in some parts of Kwara, he screamed, he said, because he had already distributed money. You know that
okay, the first election.
Yes, you know the postponement was announced very late. Very late. So he had already. The way INEC sends sensitive materials out ahead of election, and their people move to base.
Yes,
that is how politicians move from house to house, giving people money on the eve of election, extracting oaths from them, oath taking, getting them to swear. Some of them will be made to jump over guns.
Then guns.
It happened in last Osun election. You know, some of them were forced to drink concoction because the endemic poverty in our country, pushes people to great lengths just to find money.
Yes.
Someone who does not know where his next meal will come from, you are promising him 10,000. You know, I said it that Kogi, the next election in Kogi, they are going to share 10,000 on election day. If they don't share 10,000 on election day, come on air to call me a liar. People will be paid. We are moving ahead. In the past, it was just 1,000 or 2,000. No, we've gone far beyond that. We are promising people, even in the rerun election in Osun, some people were promised as much as 100,000 in the areas where the thing was going to take place. And even we are promising women, giving women bills of cotton for election. It's getting worse and worse. We are making people to swear on oath. Dìbò fún wa kó ṣebẹ̀. That's what we are saying.
Dìbò kó ralẹ̀.
Dìbò fún wa kó rọ̀kadà. What is dìbò fún wa kó rọ̀kadà? Vote for us, buy Okada.
That's Okada.
Yes, now. How much is it? These politicians, they have billions to spend on election day. You know, what we are doing is not election now. So they can give people money to buy Okada. So INEC is just wasting its time. Yes, you can say, okay, they are sensitizing people. If INEC thinks that this will happen simply on election day, then they are not serious. If they truly investigate and they have units that monitor what goes on, they should know that vote buying is not restricted to polling centers. They go to people's homes on the eve of election and give them money. So let your sensitization be, clearly come out with that message that they will come to your house. Don't take their money. Don't sell your conscience. But people who are bedraggled by poverty, will they listen to you? They will not take that advice.
No, but BK has said so much, and also I think IPPIS and EFCC should monitor INEC, not just monitor vote, but they should also monitor officials of INEC.
No, they monitor them.
They should monitor
yes,
them.
Even
yes.
remember what happened in
the
Zamfara?
Yes.
The millions that were discovered. Every time
in River State in 2015.
Yes, all the tons of cash.
I usually
that
wonder.
recovered from them.
I usually wonder. Okay, a governor will set up a special squad from the police, operation this, operation that, and those squads will not be demobilized during elections. And you know, members of those squads get special allowances from government, but nobody demobilizes them. Nobody moves them out of those states. The police will say, okay, we're going to deploy 35,000 personnel. The army will say, we'll deploy XYZ personnel. Civil defense. Now, what are you doing? You are giving politicians statistics to work on. You're giving them data, raw data that, listen, unknowingly, I don't want to say that the heads of those security agencies, are doing it with any, ulterior motive, but unwittingly, you are helping them to map out how to compromise the security agents. And then the way elections are held in this country, I believe we need to do something about I've said this a number of times, the incentives in political office in Nigeria. That's the most lucrative business venture in this country, followed by criminality. Politics is so lucrative. It is one venture where you can put money and lose everything. Then it's one venture where you can put money and you make so much. You make so much. So
you lose everything, you still come back.
Of course. There are godfathers who keep money. There are godfathers who keep money for elections, and they just pump. They look for their desired candidates, and they pump in money, pumping thugs, guns, and everything. We must do something about. That's why I said in the first topic, we must sanitize our electoral process. We must do something about our electoral process. It's not just about Kogi and Bayelsa. You saw in Bayelsa.
That's my concern.
Getting worse. Because
you discover that when they give you the number of registered voters, the statistic of people that have picked their PVC, you will discover that for strange reasons, people will stay back home on those days. You now discover that
you think stayed back home. Politicians have collected their PVCs from them.
Yes.
And given them money in exchange for their PVCs.
not to come out.
So how would they vote?
What are they coming out?
You're taking the PVC from them and giving them money. So anyone who has a PVC now,
so what is responsible for the so-called voter apathy is multidimensional.
In some cases, haven't you seen cases where the police arrested people and they found tons of PVCs on them? Politicians deliberately.
You might go to the stronghold of your opponent.
Yes, go to the stronghold of your opponent and be buying PVCs from them. And INEC has been saying, don't sell your PVC to anyone. Don't give your PVC to anyone. But these people, they don't have money. They are broke. And someone comes, look, some of the people who are staying awake, who are going to line up at 5 a.m. at INEC registration centers, they know that PVC is an opportunity for them to make money on election day. We are now at that level now. Whether we like it or not, we are at that level now. Every potential voter imagines that someone will come to him and offer him money, so that he can compromise his conscience. So this is the thing.
They are waiting
so
for you
all
to
of what
bring the money.
INEC is saying, when this thing began around, I think Ondo, got worse in what's it called? Got worse in Edo and in Ekiti. They went digital, transferring money to people
A day before
electronically, a day before
election.
election. We did not do anything. Now it's a lot worse. This is what INEC is doing, is just empty gas. These people on election day, they will collect money and go and sell their conscience.
Yes.
Wow. I have to leave it that way. Emeka Madunagu,
Thank you
it's
very
so
much.
frustrating when you hear this kind of analysis, but it's the stark reality.
Yes.
It's what's
We
happening.
must save our
We
nation.
didn't nip it in the board at the right time.
We must save our
So it
nation.
has
We
gotten
must
somewhere.
save our nation.
Mikio, thank you for your insights every other time. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program, and also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Zubakun. Bye for now. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.